Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of tonight's event, where I'm going to share my thoughts, my experience about how I got to Robben Island, my involvement in the struggle. I'm very excited to get this rare opportunity. Yes, I believe personally that there is a lot to be told, that stories that are not told yet, like many people like me. So I'm excited to be given this opportunity to tell my story, and I hope everyone will enjoy it, and I invite all and sundry to come with me as I share the experience of my journey. Thank you. Now, during Apartheid, when we grew up, one of my confrontations with Apartheid was when I was arrested for not having a passbook in Hook Street, in the middle of Hook Street in the Park Station. Now, I was going to do some shopping with my sister. I gave my passbook to my sister because she had a nice handbag. You know, I didn't have a nice trouser with pockets. Then she took my passbook with her. Then she got into the shop. She left me alone. And unfortunately, it was the time when the police were raiding for people who did not have the passbooks on their possession. And then they asked for one. I didn't have it in my possession at that time, but I said, my sister is in the shop, she's gonna bring it back. I said, no. As we speak now, you don't have it in your possession. Then there was a police van waiting there for us. Then we got in there. Now, when we got to the police station, the officer who was actually registering us there, when I got to him, he said, what's your name? What is your name? I said, Mafoka Mothamaha. I said, no. I said, but Mafoka Mothamaha is my name. I said, one side. Then the other people passed who gave, then, in other words, he wanted the English name, you know, and I gave him that name. Then he wrote us down, and then off we went. Now I started developing an attitude on the name Ezekiel because of their attitude, the police attitude of not wanting to accept it in the first place. So I said, wherever I'm going, I'm going to use this Mafoka until these people get used to this name, you know, because they thought that Ezekiel is easy enough to understand and so on. So that's how I actually, in those days, developed a negative attitude towards that name. But as time went on, and now that I'm doing theology here, and now I got to read the Bible, and I said, let me just read this whole story about who Ezekiel, the biblical Ezekiel now, was all about. And when I read the background of Ezekiel, I thought, but this in a way was so prophetic, you know, and it is actually good that I was named Ezekiel, and then I began to identify myself with that name now, you know. So, and I thank my mother for having stood her ground, that she wanted me to be named after my granddad, you know. And personally, I actually, when I look at my names, I take it as a victory for women emancipation, because women did not have a say in any processes in our culture and so on, and to a very large extent, even today, but today is less practiced and so on. So I actually honor my mother to have stood her ground, and more than 50 years later, here I am, still standing. When they argued that children bearing this name don't actually live for long. And my mother said, this one is going to live for long. And then she won the debate, and here I am today. I'm using the name. Right now, 1984, I matriculated. 1984, I matriculated in. I'm gonna give you a summary now of the summary, because I've been given about 45 minutes to do this talk before we go to, and then obviously there will be time for questions. So I'm doing a summary of a summary. Now, after I matriculated in 1984, there was a huge challenge for matriculants then who wanted to further their studies for any vocation. Well, the most obvious ones was becoming a teacher, becoming a minister, doctor, and so on. I wanted to become a teacher. Now, because my mother was a domestic worker, my father was an ordinary laborer at a mattress manufacturing company in Joburg, they couldn't afford, and they didn't have connections to get me or get us bursaries. You know? As you would imagine, if there's 11 of you in the house, and you know, you have got to give each other space to get educated. Now that is exactly what happened, and our mother said to us, look, I don't have, I'm not wealthy, I don't have anything to give you or to leave you with, you know. All I'm prepared to do is you must actually go to school, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that at least you get to matric level. And I salute her for that, because that's the promise she kept. All of us went through matric, and after matric we had then to get our way to, you know, university and so on. So myself in particular, after being unsuccessful, I then resorted to politics. And then we formed the civic associations and so on. Now, during that time, the African National Congress from time to time, every year during the struggle, the leadership in Lusaka, Oliver Tambo, they would actually issue a January 8th statement. And in that January 8th statement, it would actually unfold or give instructions of what has to be, has to happen during that particular hour as far as struggle is concerned. Now I began this interest of reading, getting involved. And in fact, at that time, getting involved in struggle was a natural thing to do. Because what do you do with anybody who has passed matric, who can get bursary to get further the education, who can also, well, you could find work during those times. You could find work. But that was not the point. The point is I wanted to see myself at the university, so I could not. But then you start finding for reasons, looking for reasons why is it not possible for one to actually get there. And in the midst of that, you then get politicized, and then you actually get involved into politics. So we then got involved, and at that time, there was a call for the people to intensify the struggle against apartheid and to form the organs of people's power. And one of those organs of people's power was to form the street committees, the people's courts, because going with that clarion call was to also make the apartheid system ungovernable. And the only way, in fact, not the only way, one of the most powerful ways to make the apartheid system unworkable and ungovernable is to form structures that you will use to govern your own selves. So, street committees made sure that we actually handle our own civil issues ourselves. Now, in other words, if, for example, there was an issue of crime, what naturally happens is that you would then go to the nearest police station, report that crime, the police come and arrest those people, and then there will be a court date set, the person will go to court, and then sentenced, that person will go to prison. So if you look at the whole justice system, you find that because it is based on apartheid system, it was an unjust system. So when we use our own system, we actually trusted in our own system. We were undermining the apartheid system. So we had our own street committees, block committees, people's courts running, and they were running effectively. And I must say that when we first started the people's courts and the street committees, there was discipline. It only degenerated into something else later on, when obviously with the infiltration of the police, putting spies in there to discredit the whole system, that it actually was portrayed as hooliganism or thuggery and stuff like that. But it was, when we started it was a very organized system, which we used our own initiatives and our own system to govern ourselves in order to undermine. And in fact, even the police station were beginning to refer people to us to get those cases solved and so on. Now, as we were doing that, the police, in fact, the entire system, they actually heard about it, and they saw the potential of this undermining of apartheid. They could actually feel it, and they actually wanted to wipe off this whole organs of people's power, and they started planting the spies within us. And one Sunday morning, when we were in the hall busy with when the court was in session, then about more than 100 police vehicles, army, special branch, uniformed police, detectives, you name them, all of them were actually there. They just closed that place, and even the helicopters were hovering around above us and so on. And then we were, all of us in that room, we were close to between 150 and 200 of us. And when we went out there, the police vans were lining like this, and then we were all taken. And out of that whole group, only the 5 of us were identified and were arrested and were kept in prison. And then we kept state of emergency. On the 20th of July 1985, the first state of emergency was declared. And it was declared first in the Eastern Cape, in the Witwatersrand, and in the Vaal Triangle. And O.R. Tambo issued a statement on the 22nd of July 1985 condemning the actions of the apartheid system. And in fact, he was actually saying that was the beginning of the military dictatorship in South Africa. And as then time unfolded, it actually proved that that is what the apartheid system wanted to introduce, a military dictatorship, because the state of emergency then in 1986 was extended to further places and so on. Now we're detained under Section 29, solitary confinement. We will be put there in the cell alone, and you were not told what the charges were, what wrong did you do, and so on. You were just put there indefinitely up until somebody is in a good mood somewhere, and then they would then charge you. So we were finally charged. The charge was sedition. The main charge was sedition. Now sedition meant, together with others, treason, subversion, meant that we were involved in events and actions with the sole purpose of undermining and usurping the authority of the state. That is what sedition actually meant. And what they used to do was that they would put the main charge and they would also put sub-charges, so to give the main charge a weight. And so that when you actually don't make it, when they don't make it on the main charge, these small charges underneath, 2 or 3 of them are going to catch you up. So they make sure that whether you like it or not, somewhere they're going to catch you up. And what happened was that we were found guilty on sedition. There were 5 of us. And then we were sentenced to 9 years imprisonment. Then we lodged an appeal because we were in a fighting mood. You wouldn't just leave that sentence and accept it. You would then fight back and say, I want to appeal my innocence, the conviction, and so on. Then they come back, then they reduced the sentence to 6 years. But by then, already you had spent 3 years in mainland prison. You know, so when you add the 3 years and you add the 6 years that is left, effectively it was the same 9 years that they initially gave us. And then we were sent on Robben Island. We were sent to Robben Island end of March 1989. Now, somebody asked me the other day, how were you transported there? Did you fly or what? I said, but you couldn't have flown there. We were taken by police, small police van, and there were 5 of us there. And what they used to do was that you would get, the next stop was at every correctional services center, every prison. So in other words, from Johannesburg prison, the next stop would be Kronstadt prison, where you would get food, you get to relieve yourself and so on. Now, if on the road you felt pressed, you know, nature visits you, you will have to ask how far is the next prison, because then you must make sure that you don't make these people. And they had got a very strict instruction not to stop anywhere but inside the prison, because then that was the officially recognized stop. Because if they could stop anywhere, even the people who were transporting us, they would be charged. They would be found guilty and be charged for doing that. So they never made mistakes. So we were stopping at every prison, and then that's how we got to Robben Island. We got there. There's a cell at the dock where there's a Nelson Mandela Gateway. They locked us up there. There's a cell, they lock us up there. And then even the boats that we used, we were put into, had cells. Many of you who went to Robben Island, except the group that went now recently, there were 2 infamous boats that they used, called Susan Kruger. How do you call it? Creer in Afrikaans. Creer. I don't know why they.
Susan Creer.
Yeah, Susan Creer. Yeah. Now named after Paul Creer, who was a prime minister at some stage, and Diaz, named after Bartholomew Diaz. Those are the 2 boats that were used, and we were on Diaz. Now when you go on Diaz, the first level is for public. You go to the second underground, and there's an underground of underground, where then it's a cell. It's dark there. And it's actually prison, because they've got this big prison butler gates. And when they open that gate, you can actually feel that you are going into a cell, real cell. Now it was so dark, we couldn't see each other. Now all we said was that we held hands like this and say, guys, if we are to die, we must die together. If we are to survive, we must survive together. Because we could not see a thing there. And with those waves doing their thing. We thought, there's another, the normal thing that they were famous of, killing people, and we thought maybe we would be the statistics. People were used to disappear, and and up to today there are people who have disappeared in the struggle under apartheid system. We don't know what happened to those people, so we thought we were going to be along those lines as well. But fortunately, God was with us. The hand of God was with us, and we got to Robben Island, and off we went, and then we got there. Now, I must say that the experience on Robben Island itself. Somebody asked me the other day, how do I feel with the visit? Now I say, with every visit that I take to Robben Island, I know it's different circumstances, different context. But I am actually excited to relive those moments, because Robben Island, many of us actually got to name it University of Life, because it transformed the lives of many, especially the ones who were incarcerated there, us. Because some of us, when they were arrested, they were like nobodies. Others were even thugs, for that matter. But when they got there, they then got schooled into the politics of the struggle, and with all different political formations on there. That's where one learned to live with diversified opinion, diversified worldview, and respect for life, respect for one another. And because there were PAC people, BCN people, and so on. And the Namibian people also were kept there. They had their own cells. They had their own section there. Now, it was great, and everybody had work to do, had an occupation. We used to cook our own food. We used to make our own furniture. So it produced carpenters. It produced plumbers. When the tap was running, leaking, our own people used to do that. We had our own sports amenities, which actually was very, very critical in keeping us safe. Because in that place, if you didn't have something, to exercise, a gym, you would really, really go crazy. So we had those things. We had different sporting activities, rugby, football, tennis, volleyball, you name it. So we actually used that. And there was education. Whoever wanted to get educated had an opportunity. But then, in 1966, before we even came there was a huge hunger strike of about 1,000 people. Mandela and Walter Sisulu and the others embarked on a very huge hunger strike in 1966, which changed the landscape and changed the conditions permanently on Robben Island. Because then people were then allowed to study. They were allowed in fact, allowed to study only specific courses. I wanted to do a printing management because my brother said to me, when you come out of prison, I want you to come and assist me with my printing business. He was operating a small printing business. But then they told me I was not allowed to actually study for that particular course, because it was a tradesman course, and it was only reserved for white people, so they said, so they put it. So I couldn't do it. So that was a restriction on its own. And our letters were also heavily censored. I remember my brother passed on in 1989. I was in prison, and they sent me a telegram. I take this telegram, and mind you, telegram is by its own nature is short. It's like an SMS. Now there was a line on top, and the second line was blotted out with something, either a marking pen or something, and you could see that this line was taken off, you know. So I thought, but and there I was being notified about my late brother's my brother's passing on, you know, and that he would be buried the next week. Now I didn't know what that line was that they blotted out. So and that shows the psychological torture that these people were determined to inflict upon us. You all know now that there was a Pretoria meeting which produced Pretoria minutes. After that there was Grooteskier meeting which produced Grooteskier minutes, and in all those meetings the discussion, amongst other things, was also the release of political prisoners. And it was agreed in those meetings that political prisoners should be released without any waste of time, and in those meetings it was agreed that the political prisoners will be released in groups. So I was finally released on the 20th of June 1990 as a result of those negotiations and those agreements. And amongst the people that I was released with was Tokyo Sohwale, who was made the commander of that particular unit that was released. In fact, every unit that was released, there was supposed to be a person commanding that unit who will make sure and maintain the discipline when we get offshore. We will make sure that we conduct the press conferences, get the logistics in terms of buying the clothing, arranging transport for people to get to their different destinations, and notifying the families and all those things. So we released them the 20th of June 1990. And then we were flown back. That was the only time when we were flown back, because we were then free. You see, we were then free. And yeah, and then interesting part, when I got, after spending so much time in prison, I got back with my wonderful partner. Unfortunately, who is my wife today, she could not make it, unfortunately. And then we got a child, you see, August 16, 1991. I was released in June 1990, and I wasted no time. Yeah, I wasted no time. Yeah, and it is my pleasure now to introduce my daughter, who is with us this evening, right? Who was born on the 16th of August 1991. Her name is Mafoka Mothamaha. There she is. Stand up, Mafoka. So you don't waste time.
Yeah, I think without any fear of none, I think one will want to first take this opportunity to thank this platform of having a person who have been part of these things. You see, the problem in South Africa now is that our history is distorted, and we've got many political non-starters, especially in the academy, who will want to tell us this particular history. in their own language and in their own time and with their own way of telling it. So I want to thank God that we still have these platforms to get the people who will tell this history as it is. But I just want to check. I just want to check with you because I am aware of the fact that in 1986, when these talks were starting, it means you were still outside. Did you get the chance to meet Abu Tata Mandela? Because some of the distorted history in South Africa is that Nelson Mandela was living alone outside Robben Island, and then the other comrades were living inside Robben Island. Are you aware of that? Can you share the light on those particular things? Because you just said something that made me very shocked when you said you were living nicely in Robben Island. Because I believe there's no such a thing. But I want just to check if you were able to get a platform to meet with such people who I believe that they will be the ones who taught you this life that you are saying you got an opportunity of learning many other things inside the prison, which is some of it that you are sharing with us today.
Thanks. First of all, let me introduce to you Sipho Singiso. This is a gentleman you've been waiting for. Unfortunately, traffic got the better of him. He's just arriving now. Welcome, comrade. Comrade, welcome.
Thank you. Trying to catch my breath.
Yeah, okay. Now
and get ready at the same time.
And get ready, né? Sure. Yeah, you're welcome here. Sipho Singiso is one of the comrades that spent time on Robben Island. In fact, he spent more time than me on Robben Island. So, what is good about every story about Robben Island is that every story is different. It is different in the sense that 50% will be the same. In other words, 50% what I'm saying will be the same as the 50% that you will be saying. Now the other 50% relates to personal experiences, because personal experiences will definitely differ. For example, I'm coming to your question. For example, if you are put on separate single cells, as they used to do, they had in your cell, in one cell, they used to have an aluminium speakers, the steel speakers. And as a matter of spreading the propaganda, they would always put the news there. Sometimes they will only report how many ANC cadres were killed on that particular day, just to make you feel small and say, but to make you hopeless. You know, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. Now they will do that on the people that they think they are weak, just to make them even weaker. Then the next cell, they wouldn't play that cassette or that propaganda message, because when you go out together, you go to the kitchen to eat, and we discuss amongst ourselves, you find that the message that was played on my own cell was different from the things that were played on the other cells. Maybe it was music there on the other cell because they could control it from one place. So when I go out there, in my story, I will include what I also hear there. But then my own conviction will then guide me. My own political conviction will then guide me. How must I then interrogate that particular piece? Now, coming to your question, yes, there was a section there called a B section, and that is where the leadership was actually held, where Mandela and others were actually held. And they were kept away from the rest of us because there were categories of prisoners. when we first arrived there, we went to A section, where there is single cells. Now, those cells are reception cells for all the prisoners that arrive. Then when you get there, it's like an observation. Then when you behave yourself, whatever that means for them, then you get transferred to the main sections. But what was important, and I think this is where living nice comes in, it was that when we first landed there, in fact on our way, they already knew that Mafoka is coming, Dede is coming, Phineas is coming, Alfred is coming, all of us, when we got there. And when we got there at that particular time, because we didn't know the arrangements on the island and so on, they provided us with soap, they provided us with newspapers, provided us with the shampoos, because the water there, as many of you might have realized, is a bit brackish. I don't know if you tried to taste that water, but it's brackish, and if you use it to shower or to bath or whatever, in the march of time, about 6 months time, your skin gets rashy thing, stuff and so on. So it was not good for the skin of your body. So comrades who were longer than us, they knew this, and they recognized that on our first arrival we wouldn't be privy to all these things that are happening. So they provided us with the logistics. Those who smoked were provided with cigarettes, small groceries, like your biscuits. So in that particular sense, comrades, we tried to make Robben Island as much as possible home for us. Because imagine, if your persecutor, if you go with the whims of your persecutor, then you please him actually. But if he sees that what he intends with you and about you is not happening, then he's the one that carries the pain more than you. So we try to make that bearable for us, and that is why I said it was actually a good feeling to see that we are in prison, but other comrades are actually thinking about us, and they actually provided that, and that for us was a great, in terms of reception and stuff like that, and we actually appreciated that very much. I don't know if I tried to answer your question. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
In your time there, did you ever get to meet Mandela personally? I know you said you were in different cells and stuff, but did you ever have that opportunity?
No, I didn't have an opportunity. When I was there, Mandela was already moved to Rita prison, and during the time of the negotiations, political prisoners, there was a delegation that came from Robben Island to actually meet Mandela as well, and Mandela to brief us, because he and the other leadership realized that we were going to be suspicious of any moves that he was actually making with the South African government. So they made sure that we were actually kept in the loop and updated about the developments. So few comrades used to be taken to meet him, and then they come back, and then the information would then be spread amongst us. But I did not see him personally on Robben Island.
But there was at least some form of communication?
Yes, definitely there was a form of communication. Yeah, there was a form of communication. I only got to see him after we were released from prison and so on.